My name is Adrienne Foxwell. I was 23 years old when I walked through my front door with a fresh surgical incision under my sweater and a discharge folder pressed to my chest. Every step sent a sharp pull through my stomach, but I forced myself to stand straight because I already knew sympathy wasn't waiting inside that house. The moment the door opened, my mother didn't look at my pale face, my hospital bracelet, or the prescription bag trembling in my hand. She glanced at the messy kitchen behind her and said, "You're finally back. Stop the act and get dinner started." I honestly thought the pain medication had made me hear her wrong. My brother leaned against the wall with a lazy smirk. "Don't fake exhaustion just to dodge chores." My father stood a few feet behind them, saw the bandage edge beneath my sleeve, and chose to look away. That silence hurt worse than the incision. And then, the floorboards behind me creaked. Sterling Westbrook stepped into the doorway, tall, calm. He had heard every single word. My mother's mouth stopped moving. My brother's smirk vanished. My father's face went gray. None of them knew yet that Sterling had the power to take away everything they had been using to control me. 3 months before that afternoon, my life inside the Foxwell house felt less like being a daughter and more like being hired help that nobody had to pay. We lived outside Charlotte, North Carolina. White columns, trimmed hedges, the kind of house that looked picture perfect from the street. Inside, everything ran on one silent rule. I worked, and everyone else complained when I didn't work fast enough. I was studying nursing at a community college and picking up pharmacy shifts to cover my own books, gas, and scrubs, expenses my parents called my responsibility now that I was an adult. I didn't mind working hard. What I minded was coming home after anatomy, labs and double shifts to find dishes stacked in the sink, laundry dropped on the stairs, and my mother sitting in the breakfast nook, scrolling shopping sites like the mess around her had nothing to do with her. My mother, Valerie, had a talent for making laziness sound like authority. She called it managing the emotional tone of the home. What it actually meant was ordering throw pillows, criticizing how I folded towels, and assigning me more work. My brother Preston was 26, unemployed, and permanently attached to his gaming headset. He called himself a content creator. The only content I ever saw was him shouting at strangers online, while empty soda cans multiplied around his desk. My father, Howard, worked long hours and treated every conflict in the house like a storm. He could survive by staying very, very still. When my mother snapped at me, he looked at his phone. When Preston mocked me, he sighed. "Just keep the peace, Adrienne. You know how your mother gets." Keeping the peace meant I cooked dinner after 12-hour days. Cleaned Preston's dishes because he said a real man didn't scrub pans. Carried my mother's packages from the porch, and listened while she complained I hadn't vacuumed before they arrived. They called it training me to be a responsible woman. I called it exhaustion, but mostly said that word inside my own head, because saying it out loud only made them laugh. About a week before, everything changed. I started feeling a dull ache on the right side of my stomach. I told myself it was stress, bad coffee, cramps. I was a nursing student. I knew how to explain symptoms away. But the pain kept returning sharper each night, especially when I bent to unload the dishwasher or carried laundry upstairs. One evening, I gripped the counter because the room swayed for a second. My mother looked up from her phone, not with concern, but irritation. "Don't start that dramatic breathing. I need the chicken seasoned before 6. Preston walked through, grabbed a drink, and smirked. "She's going to fake a medical emergency to avoid dinner." My father sat at the table sorting mail. He heard it. He saw me pressing my palm against my stomach. He said nothing. The night I ended up in the emergency room, my family was at a steakhouse for what my mother called a spontaneous family celebration. I wasn't invited. Someone had to stay home and finish prepping the house for guests. I tried to stand long enough to take the trash out. Halfway across the kitchen, my knees buckled. I called my mother. No answer. My father. Voicemail. Preston rejected the call after 2 rings. I sent a message to the family group chat. "I think something is really wrong. I need help." My mother replied, "We're eating. Stop trying to pull attention." Preston sent a laughing emoji. "If you can text, you can clean." My father didn't respond at all. The pain became so intense I could no longer stand. I called 911. I told the operator my family wasn't home. I unlocked the front door, then lay on the floor and waited. I had a ruptured appendix, emergency surgery, alone. When I woke up in recovery, the first face I saw was Mina, my closest friend from nursing school. She had dropped everything and driven 40 minutes to sit beside me. The second person was Sterling Westbrook, my father's employer. a man I had met only twice. He stood in the doorway, calm and measured, and asked how I was feeling. I didn't know then why he had come. I only knew that two strangers had crossed the city for me while the people, who shared my last name, were finishing their dessert. 24. Hours after surgery, I came home. Every step from the driveway to the front door sent a sharp pull through my stomach. The incision was fresh. The painkillers hadn't fully settled. And I already told you what happened next. My mother pointed to the stove. My brother smirked. My father looked away. And then the floorboards creaked. Sterling stepped in. He had driven me home personally and walked me to the door, not because he had to, but because he had seen enough. He looked at my mother calmly and said, "She had emergency surgery yesterday. Which part of that was unclear to you?" My mother straightened. "Sterling, this is a family matter. Howard's name is on a trust account I manage." Sterling said, his voice quiet and final. "That makes it my matter too, and I want to understand exactly what kind of family this is." Nobody moved. That evening, Sterling sat at the kitchen table and asked me to explain. Everything. I told him about the dishes and the laundry, the pharmacy shifts and the anatomy labs, the night my knees buckled and my family was eating steak, the group chat message, the laughing emoji. He listened without interrupting. Then he opened his phone and made a call. The next morning, consequences moved through the Foxwell house faster than any apology ever had. My mother's trust card was frozen. The transaction declined twice. I heard that quiet electronic beep of refusal from my room, and I almost smiled. Preston walked outside to find two men with paperwork. The car he had been driving for 3 years, registered to a company under Sterling's group, with no contract, no payments, and no justification, was being repossessed. By noon, his gaming chair was listed online. By evening, he was calling friends asking about overnight warehouse shifts. My father was told his authority over household expenses was revoked. A compliance review at work had begun. My mother called Sterling, crying. "This will destroy us," he said. "What destroyed this family was ordering your daughter to cook, while she was still bleeding under bandages. This is only the bill arriving." 2 days later, Sterling moved me into a small furnished apartment 10 minutes from campus. 1 bedroom, a narrow kitchen, a second-hand couch, morning light through the blinds in pale gold stripes. To me, it felt like freedom. He paid 6 months of rent directly to the landlord and made one thing clear. This is not charity. This is recovery time. Use it to heal, finish school, and decide who deserves access to you. I cried after he left, not because I was sad, but because I had forgotten what it felt like to be helped, without being made to feel guilty. My mother called 17 times that first week. Her voicemail started angry, then softened into tears about how lonely the house felt. I saved every message, then blocked her until I was strong enough to listen without shaking. Preston sent one message from a new number. "Hope you're happy." I deleted it. For once, his discomfort was not my assignment. The real revenge wasn't watching my mother's car decline, or my brother lose his car, though I won't pretend those moments didn't feel fair. The real revenge wasn't watching my mother's car decline, or my brother lose his car, though I won't pretend those moments didn't feel fair. The real revenge was finally understanding that I had never been the weak one. I had been the person holding an entire household together, while they called me dramatic for bending under the weight. Sharing blood does not give anyone the right to dismiss your pain, drain your energy, or make you earn basic kindness. A real family protects the person who is hurting. A toxic family asks what that person can still do for them. If you were in Adrienne's place, just out of surgery, ordered back to the stove by the people, who didn't even answer your call, would you have stayed silent to keep the peace? Or would you have let the truth finally arrive? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, share it, because someone out there needs to hear that their pain is not an inconvenience. Their life has worth, whether or not the people around them can see it. If Adrienne Foxwell's story is the kind of story that makes you sit up straight, you are exactly where you need to be. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Every week we bring you real stories of real people who were betrayed, counted out, and came back stronger than anyone expected. Don't miss what comes next. This is a